Although the yellow spring divine anger and the angry Buddha lotus flame are extremely powerful, the body of an ancient void dragon is also unbelievably tough. Additionally, the three of them possess extraordinary abilities. It would be difficult to kill them. Xiao Yan's eyes rapidly flickered while he swiftly flew back. Roar! The enormous firestorm in the distance violently shook as this thought flashed through Xiao Yan's heart. Its rotating speed gradually slowed. Finally, a dragon roar that was filled with a wild murderous intent was emitted from the firestorm. They are indeed not dead. Xiao Yan's heart slightly sank upon hearing this dragon roar. It seemed that he was really dreaming if he wanted to kill the three dragon kings with one strike. Bang! Soon after the dragon roar was emitted, a dragon claw that was hundreds of feet in size was violently extended from the storm. Three dragons, which were tens of thousands of feet long, forcefully rushed out of the firestorm. Those large blood-red dragon eyes were incomparably vicious as they stared intently at Xiao Yan in the distance. These three extremely large dragons were the actual forms of the three great dragon kings. But their appearances were extremely miserable. Blood flowed out of their enormous dragon bodies like streams. Over half of their scales, which were as large as a human head, had been shattered. Deep wounds covered their bodies like gullies. It was even vaguely possible to see dense, white bones within the wounds. Even though the three of them had survived the yellow spring divine anger and the angry Buddha lotus flame, they had paid a heavy price. Little bastard, this king will ensure that you suffer a fate worse than death. Three huge dragons lingered in the empty space. An extremely dense dragon might spread apart. It appeared as though the entire world was trembling at this moment. Vicious roars rumbled over this empty realm like thunder before spreading into the distance. Xiao Yan appeared just like an insignificant ant as he stood in front of these three humongous dragons. His face involuntarily twitched a couple of times at this moment. The bone wings behind him were flapped and his body suddenly pulled back. The three large dragon kings had already gone crazy. He would likely end up dying if he were to fight with them. Bang! Xiao Yan's body had just pulled back when the three large dragon kings widened their ferocious large mouths. Three light pillars that were 1,000 feet wide shot out with a bang. The light pillar contained an extremely terrifying destructive force. It was likely that Xiao Yan would completely vanish if he was struck by them. Angry Buddha reincarnation. The three large light pillars sealed off all of Xiao Yan's paths of retreat. His expression had become completely grave at this critical moment. 4 clusters of heavenly flames were spat out of his mouth. They rapidly swelled and turned into a 1,000-foot large plate created by a ring of fire. A mysterious energy slowly spread from within the plate. This was a unique Do skill that Xiao Yan had comprehended while advancing to the Do Sheng class back then. The enormous fireplate had just been formed when the first light pillar came rushing over with lightning-like speed. Finally, they collided with each other. Bang! The entire world was quiet the moment the collision occurred. A strange force was emitted from within the circular fireplate before the light pillar emitted a swoosh sound as it shot backwards. Grug! Although the light pillar was reflected, the force that penetrated the fireplate still caused Xiao Yan to spit out a mouthful of fresh blood. Bang bang! The other 2 light pillars quickly followed behind the first light pillar. But all of them were eventually reflected. Nevertheless, the fireplate also exploded with a bang after the last light pillar was reflected. Another mouthful of fresh blood was spat out of Xiao Yan's mouth as his body flew back 10,000 feet. Boom boom. Those 3 reflected light pillars were ruthlessly smashed into the enormous bodies of the 3 great dragon kings in front of their stunned eyes. This caused their originally miserable injuries to worsen. Kill him. This wild and violent roar reverberated around the empty realm. Even the most sinister northern dragon king had become furious at this moment. The combined attacks of the 3 of them, the 3 great dragon kings, not only failed to swiftly finish Xiao Yan off, they had instead allowed Xiao Yan to leave them worse off. They would lose all of their reputation if this matter were to spread. All of you will have to lose more bones if you wish to kill me. Xiao Yan once again forcefully stabilized his body. He lifted his somewhat pale face and wiped away the trace of blood from the corner of his mouth. His black eyes revealed some craziness. The 3 great dragon kings were cornering him to death. Xiao Yan spat out some blood as a madness rose within his eyes. Both of his hands formed a hand seal, and an enormous illusory figure once again covered his body. Mo! A giddiness spread through Xiao Yan's head as the illusory figure appeared. But he continued to clench his teeth. He once again activated his spiritual strength to unleash the Yellow Spring divine anger. The frightening spiritual strength assault surged once again and ruthlessly struck the three great dragon kings. At that moment, the giant blood-colored eyes of the three great dragon kings revealed a dimness. Two continuous spiritual attacks posed great harm to them. Die! The Northern Dragon King was the first to recover from this spiritual assault. His large body suddenly swayed as it swiftly transformed into a human figure. With a flash, he appeared in front of Xiao Yan. His expression was ferocious as he threw a punch forward, which heavily landed on Xiao Yan's chest. Grug! A large mouthful of fresh blood was spat out of Xiao Yan's mouth. His expression was ferocious as he looked at the vicious face of the Northern Dragon King in front of him. A wild smile appeared on his face. A four-colored fire lotus appeared with the flip of his hand and subsequently smashed into the body of the Northern Dragon King. Explode! Boom! A fire lotus erupted once again, and the Northern Dragon King was sent flying back 10,000 feet due to the explosion. Mouthful after mouthful of blood was madly spat out as though it cost nothing. He did not expect Xiao Yan to be even more ruthless than him. Xiao Yan had exchanged a punch for a punch. The interior of Xiao Yan's body was turned into a complete mess by the Northern Dragon King's palm after Xiao Yan had used his remaining strength to unleash a fire lotus that sent the Northern Dragon King flying. Even Xiao Yan's chest had slightly sunk in. Without his extremely strong body, it was likely that the palm from the Northern Dragon King would have caused his body to explode, resulting in his death. Two light figures accompanied by an earth-shaking murderous desire came rushing over while Xiao Yan was struggling to catch his breath. They were the Southern and Western Dragon Kings. The eyes of those two were bright red, and they appeared quite mad. The three great Dragon Kings had been beaten into such a miserable state by someone from a member of the younger generation. Just thinking about it caused the rational thoughts of those two to be overcome by craziness. Little bastard, go and die. The expression of the Southern Dragon King was ferocious. His arm transformed into a huge claw that ruthlessly slammed toward Xiao Yan's head. If this palm were to strike Xiao Yan's head would have ended up exploding into a bloody fog. Looking at the rapidly magnified dragon claw in front of him, Xiao Yan's body began to tremble in the face of such a deadly threat. The heart in Xiao Yan's chest suddenly began to rapidly beat. The strange bloodline hidden in his chest had begun to quietly flow out. It swiftly entered the many blood vessels within his body. Bang! Bang bang! After the feeling of that blood flowing into his blood vessels, Xiao Yan suddenly felt his strength, which he had completely exhausted, completely return in an instant. Moreover, it appeared even stronger than his previous peak condition. This sudden change caused Xiao Yan to be startled. He quickly recovered and was preparing to hurriedly dodge when an extremely bright golden light suddenly flashed past his eyes. Xiao Yan's eyes were shocked as the golden light flashed past because he saw the arm of the Southern Dragon King be hacked off. The spot where the arm was broken was extremely smooth. The shock quickly disappeared. Xiao Yan suddenly turned his head around, only to find a purple-haired figure slowly walking through the air. A liquid-like golden sword slowly flowed through her hands while a destructive force quietly spread from it. At the same time, a mysterious icy cold voice spread with a pressure. This emperor will forever imprison you in the dragon prison if you dare touch him. The long purple hair naturally belonged to Ziyan, but her body currently radiated a terrifying pressure that frightened Xiao Yan. This pressure originated from the liquid-like golden sword that she held in her hand. The Southern Dragon King looked at his missing arm with dull eyes. After having transformed into a dragon arm, the defenses of his body had already reached an extremely frightening level. Even if he were to receive a direct blow from a 5-star Doshang, it would be impossible for his arm to be cut off with such ease. However, dragon-slaying sword? Is it the dragon-slaying sword? You have summoned the dragon-slaying sword? This dull state continued for an instant before he felt the intense pain transmitted from his lost arm. The Southern Dragon King suddenly lifted his head. He looked at Ziyan walking through the air. Finally, his eyes paused onto the liquid-like golden sword that she held. His eyes shrank to the size of pinholes as a shocked exclamation containing great disbelief was roared from his mouth. The heart of the Western Dragon King by the side also wildly shook. Those bright red eyes revealed a shocked expression in them. His entire body trembled as he looked at the liquid-like golden sword in Ziyan's hand. A horrified expression finally appeared on his face. The dragon-slaying sword was not a weapon. Instead, it was an extremely powerful Do skill owned by the ancient Void Dragon tribe. This Do skill could only be unleashed by the ancient dragon that possessed the purest royal bloodline. Even the three great dragon kings were unable to use it. But none of them had ever expected the current Xian to be able to summon it. It should be known that even the last dragon emperor had to reach the strength of a 6-star Do Sheng before being able to barely summon the dragon-slaying sword. However, Xian was only at the initial 4-star Do Sheng class. The dragon-slaying sword, as its name suggests, was specifically used to slay dragons. This could be considered a technique that only belonged to the dragon emperor. Unless one's strength far surpassed the ancient dragon wielding the dragon-slaying sword. The ancient dragon would be as weak as Beancurd under the sword. Dragon-slaying sword. Everyone on the eastern dragon island froze at this moment. They raised their heads. All of their eyes contained a rich fear as they looked at the figure standing in empty space. Even an expert like Zan Mo involuntarily felt his body tremble. They were all feeling a fear and terror that originated from their bloodline. The dragon-slaying sword was the thing that all ancient void dragon feared the most within their hearts. The dragon emperor has actually summoned the dragon-slaying sword. The many elders on the eastern dragon island trembled as they looked at the empty realm. They were so excited that tears rolled down their faces. A dragon emperor who could summon the dragon-slaying sword was a true dragon emperor. Hence, from this moment on, Xian finally possessed the authority to command the entire ancient dragon tribe. The dragon-slaying sword has already appeared. It is obvious who the dragon emperor is. All of you should stop being obstinate. Be careful of ending up in a terrible state when the dragon-slaying sword descends on your head in the future. The first elder from the eastern dragon island floated in the air and roared out loud while holding a dragon-shaped walking stick in his hand. The expressions of some of the warriors from the three dragon islands changed upon hearing this roar. Even Zan Man and the other two elders did not dare to utter a single word at this moment. The pressure of the dragon-slaying sword radiated across the empty realm, causing them to feel extremely uneasy. They felt as though the thing that could slay a dragon, as if it were slaughtering a chicken, would suddenly descend and fall on their heads. Bang bang. Silence covered the eastern dragon island. A moment later, some warriors from the three islands could not endure this pressure that originated from their bloodline. They knelt down to the empty space in the distance. Soon after this first group of people knelt down, an increasing number of ancient dragons began to make a choice after struggling. And in the end, they chose to surrender. The expressions of Zan Mo and the other powerful upper echelons of the three islands gradually paled upon seeing more warriors kneel. They were aware that the situation today had already been decided. In the future, the eastern dragon island would definitely far surpass the three great dragon island. Hurry up and leave. The Western Dragon King forcefully suppressed the horror in his heart when the situation on the Eastern Dragon Island's situation drastically changed. A furious roar sounded and his body instantly pulled back. The Southern Dragon King was unconcerned about his broken arm. His face was filled with shock as he pulled back. Traitors! Dragon-slaying sword! Execute! Xian's purple eyes star RD at the two retreating figures with cold indifference. An icy bone-chilling voice was emitted from her mouth. And the dragon-slaying sword was slowly lifted and swung at the Western Dragon King. The sword swung down. A strange fluctuation rippled from the tip of the sword with lightning-like speed. The Western Dragon Island sensed something the moment the sword came swinging down. The terror in his eyes became even more intense as a low roar was emitted from his mouth. Layer after layer of dragon scales rose over his head, body, arms, and half of his body. These dragon scales contained a strange luster as though they were unbreakable. However, this extremely powerful defense crumbled in a short instant. That strange energy emitted from the dragon-slaying sword penetrated space itself and gently slashed across his body. Grug! The fluctuation passed by and the expression of the Western Dragon King paled immediately. A mouthful of fresh blood was wildly spat out as he lowered his head in shock. He could see a large savage-looking wound sliding down his shoulder as it headed toward his waist. The tough dragon scales covering his body split like beancurd. The slice was extremely smooth as fresh blood rolled down beneath the dragon scales. One was even vaguely able to see his moving internal organs inside. Just a slash was all it took to seriously injure the Western Dragon King. The might of the dragon-slaying sword could indeed be described as terrifying against an ancient void dragon. Ah! A miserable screech sounded from the Western Dragon King's mouth as an earth-shaking cry. An intense pain that penetrated deep into his bones caused his body to tremble. Wave after wave of dizziness continued to assault his mind. The Southern Dragon King, who was a short distance from the Western Dragon King, felt his limbs turn icy cold after seeing the slice form. He violently swallowed a mouthful of saliva. He ceased having any thoughts of rescuing others at this moment. The only thought he had was to hurry up and leave. The might of the dragon-slaying sword had almost caused him to collapse. Gulp. Xiao Yan swallowed a mouthful of saliva. His heart was full of shock. He had personally experienced just how frightening the defensive strength of those three were. Even his strongest extermination fire lotus had only injured them. But this gentle slash from Xian's sword had nearly taken the life of the Western Dragon King. Hurry up and escape. The Southern Dragon King emitted a roar as his body swiftly retreated. That Western Dragon King also understood that he would simply end up dying if he remained behind. He grabbed the savage-looking wound on his chest, maneuvered the dou qi within his body, and crazily retreated. Xian slowly walked past Xiao Yan. Her eyes were cold and indifferent as she watched those two flee. She once again lifted the dragon-slaying sword in her hand and gently slashed it down. The moment this sword slashed down, Xiao Yan saw a small lock of long purple hair belonging to Xian turn into a grayish-white color. This dragon-slaying sword is exhausting Xian's life force. Xiao Yan's heart shook violently the moment he witnessed her hair change. Since you wish to corner us to death, I will have an all-out fight with you. A feeling of imminent death immediately rose within the Western and Southern Dragon King's hearts as Xian's sword slashed down. They had both seriously injured. They would likely be dead if this slash struck them. Moreover, their prior experience told them that they would not be able to escape the dragon-slaying sword. The both of them were forced into a state of madness as a large mouthful of pale golden blood was suddenly spat out of their mouths. Dragon Emperor Bell. The golden blood swiftly spread in front of the both of them and turned into a 100-foot-tall golden bell, which wrapped around the Western and Southern Dragon Kings. Clang! That strange fluctuation approached with lightning-like speed after the large golden bell was formed. Finally, it smashed with the large golden bell. Bang! That large golden bell emitted waves of circular ripples the moment the loud sound was emitted. The large golden bell exploded and the lingering ripple struck the Western and Southern Dragon Kings. One leg from each of them flew off. Within a short few minutes, the two great Dragon Kings had become crippled Dragon Kings. Do you think that traitors are worthy of unleashing the strength of a Dragon Emperor? A cold smile rose on Xian's face as she looked at the extremely miserable duo. The dragon-slaying sword in her hand once again mercilessly slashed down. Grug! This sword was not successfully slashed down as Xian's delicate figure trembled after she had just lifted it up. A mouthful of dark golden blood was spat out of her mouth as her expression paled. Although this slash was not completed, there was still a fluctuation emitted. It swiftly rushed toward the Southern and Western Dragon Kings. In their seriously wounded state, the two of them could only sense the ripple grow closer with shock and fear. Swoosh! However, a figure hurried over with lightning-like speed after the two were about to be struck by that ripple. It was the Northern Dragon King, who had yet to show himself. He grabbed the two of them by a shoulder and a mouthful of golden blood was spat out. Subsequently, he sped up and disappeared from the empty realm within a couple of flashes. A miserable screech was emitted from the direction they had fled soon after they had disappeared. Clearly, they did not escape the mysterious fluctuation. The three great Dragon Kings have been defeated. The bodies of Zan Mo's group on the eastern Dragon Island immediately turned icy cold after they watched the three miserable figures flee. Their bodies began to rise from the ground as they fled in all directions along with some of the three islands' elders. It would be suicidal for them to remain behind at this moment. What a terrifying sword! Xiao Yan looked to where the three Dragon Kings had disappeared before his eyes shifted to the seemingly liquid-like sword in Xian's hand. He involuntarily inhaled a gentle breath of cold air in his heart. After forcing the three Dragon Kings to retreat, Xian remained suspended in the air, her body unmoving as her cold purple eyes stared in the direction of their escape. The golden dragon-slaying sword in her hand trembled briefly before dissolving into nothingness. At the same moment, Xian spat out a mouthful of fresh blood and began to fall, revealing that the price she paid for summoning the sword was far greater than ordinary dou qi exhaustion. Xiao Yan rushed forward and caught her in his arms, alarmed by her deathly pale complexion. Although Zi Yan tried to reassure him with a forced smile, it was clear that the dragon-slaying sword had drained her deeply, even affecting her vitality. Xiao Yan himself was in terrible condition. Without the bloodline power that had surged from his heart and repaired many of his damaged meridians, he might have been crippled. Even so, he was already at his limit after battling the 3 dragon kings alone. Trying to lighten the mood, Xiao Yan offered Zi Yan some medicinal pills she liked, teasing her as if she were still a child. Zi Yan rolled her eyes but accepted them, though her behavior was noticeably more composed than in the past, reflecting her growth. Soon after, the first elder and other elders of the Eastern Dragon Island arrived and respectfully addressed Zi Yan as Dragon Emperor. Though slightly embarrassed, Zi Yan quickly regained her authority and asked about the island's condition. The first elder reported that the Eastern Dragon Island was safe. Many enemies had fled, and some members from the other Dragon Islands had chosen to remain. Zi Yan ordered them to be temporarily accepted but closely monitored. When asked about the fate of the 3 Dragon Kings, Zi Yan revealed that she had severed the limbs of the Western and Southern Dragon Kings, permanently weakening them, with only the Northern Dragon King remaining. The Eastern Dragon Island would soon recover and launch a counterattack to complete the unification of the ancient dragon tribe. Her calm yet commanding tone carried an innate pressure born from her dragon phoenix constitution, leaving even Xiao Yan momentarily speechless. After the elders departed, Xiao Yan jokingly sighed about how heavy the Dragon Emperor title seemed. Zi Yan teased him in return, briefly revealing traces of her old mischievous self. She then sincerely thanked Xiao Yan, acknowledging that without his efforts to hold off and heavily injure the Dragon Kings, her incomplete dragon-slaying sword would never have achieved such overwhelming deterrence. Xiao Yan brushed off her gratitude, hiding the many sacrifices he had made for her sake, including manipulating alliances, threatening powerful clans, and risking his life in battle. However, his injuries caught up to him, and intense pain surged through his body as he tried to move. Zi Yan gently supported him, insisting that he recuperate on the Eastern Dragon Island. As she flew with him toward the island, her hair brushed against his face, carrying a calm and comforting fragrance. The battle ended with a decisive victory for the Eastern Dragon Island. Its strength and influence rose dramatically. While the other 3 dragon islands entered a period of decline, the summoning of the dragon-slaying sword erased all doubts about Zi Yan's identity as the true Dragon Emperor, and warriors from the other islands were forced to reconsider their loyalties. From this point on, the Eastern Dragon Island seized complete initiative, while the others could only wait helplessly for their eventual defeat and unification under Zi Yan. In the aftermath, the Eastern Dragon Island became extremely busy dealing with the consequences of the war and integrating new residents. Xiao Yan, however, secluded himself in a hidden chamber to recover from his grievous injuries, fearing lasting damage that could hinder his future cultivation. Inside the quiet chamber, Xiao Yan entered deep meditation. Over 10 days, his severe injuries gradually healed, yet he remained unmoving. Beneath this calm exterior, profound changes were occurring. His heart beat steadily, releasing strands of purple-red blood that spread through his body. Though terrifyingly hot, this blood caused no pain and instead carried a sensation akin to rebirth, refining his meridians and flesh. This mysterious bloodline power, newly awakened within his heart, was largely responsible for his rapid recovery. Though Xiao Yan did not understand why it had become active, he sensed that each circulation subtly increased his strength. Accepting the process, he allowed it to continue uninterrupted, eventually falling into a deep, slumber-like state as his body was endlessly refined. Time became meaningless within the silent cultivation chamber as Xiao Yan remained in seclusion. Immersed in the tempering of his body, he unknowingly spent 3 full months in deep slumber. During this time, purple-red energy circulated continuously from his heart, dyeing his skin and even his hair with a faint demonic hue while releasing powerful fluctuations. The prolonged bloodline tempering pushed Xiao Yan's cultivation to the absolute peak of an advanced 1-star Dosheng, just a step away from the 2nd star. However, he did not awaken immediately. Instead, the process continued until the 100th day, when violent energy fluctuations suddenly erupted. A massive energy vortex formed around him, tearing apart the cultivation room and drawing in vast amounts of surrounding energy. The disturbance alarmed the experts of the Eastern Dragon Island. But Zi Yan arrived and calmed the situation, realizing that Xiao Yan was attempting a breakthrough. As the vortex intensified, the energy condensed into liquid droplets, forming a terrifying whirlpool that was finally absorbed into Xiao Yan's body. When Xiao Yan opened his eyes, beams of purple-red light shot into the sky, releasing a bloodline pressure that even the ancient Void Dragon clan could feel. Zi Yan sensed the presence of Dragon Phoenix bloodline energy within him, unaware that his bloodline was actually a fusion of multiple powerful lineages. Moments later, Xiao Yan devoured the remaining energy, shattered the cold jade bed beneath him, and released an overwhelming aura that enveloped the island, signaling his success. Xiao Yan had successfully broken through to the second star of the Do Sheng class. His physical body, strengthened by 3 months of bloodline refinement, had reached a level comparable to an ancient void dragon. Though the bloodline tempering weakened after his awakening, it continued refining his body steadily, promising long-term benefits. After reuniting with Zi Yan, the little fairy doctor, and the others, Xiao Yan learned that his retreat had lasted exactly 100 days. He was then informed that Yao Chen had sent urgent news. The purifying demonic lotus flame was about to be born, and the Hall of Souls had begun to move. Understanding the danger and importance of this opportunity, Xiao Yan decided to immediately return to the Falling Star Pavilion. Determined and resolute, he prepared to face the Hun clan and seize the purifying demonic lotus flame, no matter the cost.